Welcome to Hidden Reality, where we uncover the truths buried beneath the surface. Today, we're diving into a truly mind-bending explainer based on some incredible source material. We're looking at a beautiful tropical paradise that faced an absolute ecological and health catastrophe. We're going to peel back the layers to understand the hidden root causes here, looking right past the obvious symptoms to see exactly how global economics literally shaped a nation's health. It's a suspenseful look at the intersection of industry, environment, and human survival, and what we uncover today is definitely going to change how you view global health trends.
Okay, let's jump right into this mystery. If I asked you to name the country with the highest rate of obesity in the entire world, what's your first guess? You'd probably naturally assume it's America, right? Or maybe another massive Western nation known for fast food and a sedentary lifestyle. But the data points to a place you would probably never suspect. The clues lead us far away from the major continents, straight into the deep heart of the Pacific Ocean, revealing a really complex narrative of shifting economies and stolen health. We're stripping away those assumptions right now to reveal Nauru. It's the third smallest country in the world, a tiny Pacific island spanning just about 21 square kilometers. Yet the statistics here are absolutely staggering. An unbelievable 61% of its people are classified as obese, and almost 90% of the population is overweight. No way, right? How on earth did a tropical island with historically abundant natural resources reach this point? To decode this massive shift, we have to investigate its incredibly unique economic history. But before we uncover the why in this hidden reality investigation, we need to clearly define our metric. The data relies heavily on the Body Mass Index, or BMI. It's a standard indicator used globally to categorize weight ranges. Now sure, BMI definitely has its nuances and might not perfectly account for heavily muscled folks, but falling into the higher categories on this scale is widely recognized by medical professionals as a massive red flag. It links directly to severe diseases like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and heart failure. Calculating your own BMI is basically a simple three-step process. You convert your height to meters, find your weight in kilograms, and divide your weight by your height squared. Generally, a healthy score sits between 18.5 and 24.9. Hit 30 or above, and you're categorized as obese. But for the people of Nauru, understanding this math highlights something much darker. The rising BMI scores across their population aren't just individual data points. They're a systemic trap showing how massive environmental changes totally destroyed their traditional lifestyle and nutritional options. Now, what's really fascinating about this timeline is how it tracks the clues of Nauru's exploitation. Discovered by a British ship in 1798, it was actually named Pleasant Island. But in 1906, everything changed. Phosphate was discovered. This is a highly valuable mineral, absolutely crucial for artificial fertilizers, and it kicked off a century of aggressive extraction. Foreign powers aggressively mined the phosphate, selling it off on the global market. And even after Nauru finally gained independence in 1968, the mining continued as the sole economic driver until the resource was virtually depleted in 2010. During the absolute peak of this mining boom in 1975, Nauru's GDP per capita made it the second richest country in the entire world, sitting just behind Saudi Arabia. But the investigation reveals this was just a temporary illusion of immense wealth. The government threw money at international investments, they built a skyscraper in Melbourne, they launched a national airline, and they bought up luxury cars. Meanwhile, they abolished taxes and handed out free services, which perfectly masked the catastrophic reality that was bubbling just beneath the surface as their island was literally being hollowed out. And this brings us to a brilliantly horrifying moment of decision-making. Back in 1982, a New York Times article explicitly warned that Nauru's phosphate was incredibly limited and would run out within a decade. When confronted with this economic certainty, Nauru's finance minister, James Bopp, simply replied, "Tomorrow will take care of itself." It's an unbelievable quote, right? It perfectly captures the hubris of the era. Ultimately, the resource did run out, collapsing the economy and leaving the islanders stranded in the aftermath of a radically destroyed landscape. So here is the deadly twist. The land wasn't just mined, it was irreversibly poisoned. Look at the reality today. Roughly 90% of Nauru's land is completely unusable for agriculture. The entire center of the island was left as an uninhabitable, jagged limestone wasteland. Worse still, the extraction process introduced toxic cadmium, a highly dangerous heavy metal, into the environment, completely compromising the groundwater. As one anthropologist pointed out, finding even a single fresh vegetable in a week became literally a matter of sheer luck. Traditional farming was just gone. With zero domestic food production and heavily contaminated water, the islanders were trapped. Everything had to be imported. To survive, they are now forced to rely almost entirely on cheap, imported, highly processed junk food. We're talking white rice, instant noodles, sugary sodas, and heavily processed canned foods packed with preservatives. This diet isn't some cultural preference. It's the only viable option left in a toxic ecosystem. When your land is poisoned, your health becomes entirely at the mercy of global supply chains. As we widen the lens of our hidden reality investigation, we uncover that Nauru isn't alone. Neighboring Samoa is similarly exploited. They heavily import a product known as turkey tails, which is literally the oil-producing gland of the turkey dumped by overseas markets. It's shockingly unhealthy, with about 75% of its calories coming straight from fat. And here's the crazy part. When Samoa tried to ban its import for public health reasons in 2007, global trade regulations stepped in. To join the World Trade Organization, Samoa was actually forced to lift the ban by 2013. The conspiracy deepens over in Tonga. Now, local fishing is absolutely still possible there, but the incredibly healthy, nutrient-dense fish caught in their waters are highly valuable, so they're immediately exported for international profit. And what replaces that critical local food source? Imported mutton flaps from New Zealand and Australia. It's an incredibly fatty sheep cut packing 40 grams of fat and 420 calories per 100 grams. It's essentially pushed onto the local population as a cheap, accessible staple to replace the premium fish they are no longer eating. This is the core of what Hidden Reality exposes today. The source points directly to a systemic, global supply chain where economic incentives consistently prioritize the export of high-value, healthy resources from vulnerable nations, only to backfill their diets with cheap, heavily processed, calorie-dense foods. It's a complex, overarching web of international trade where public health outcomes are completely secondary to corporate bottom lines. It is quite literally profits over human lives, fundamentally altering the diets of entire populations. Bringing the mystery closer to home, we see this exact same dynamic playing out in massive markets. In Mexico, citizens are consuming a staggering 638-ounce servings of carbonated soft drinks per capita every single year, corresponding with a 29% obesity rate. In America, the adult obesity rate sits even higher at 36%. The data argues this massive shift is driven by the widespread availability, extreme affordability, and aggressive marketing of lethal amounts of high-sugar, heavily processed foods right within their own borders. But how do they get away with it? The investigation shows exactly how this is maintained in the public consciousness. Major corporations have actively funded biased scientific research designed to shift the blame away from their toxic diets and purely onto a lack of exercise. By manipulating media narratives, they trick you into believing that you can somehow out-exercise a terrible calorie-dense diet. It's a deliberate messaging strategy that perfectly shields these corporations while keeping consumption rates incredibly high. And it doesn't stop at the grocery store. Even your physical environment is often designed against you. American-style urban planning enforces extreme car dependency. Think about the sprawling infrastructure, the massive parking lots, the endless highways. Natural human movement, like walking to the store or cycling to work, is literally engineered out of existence. Compared to walkable cities with robust transit, this forces a highly sedentary lifestyle where physical activity requires dedicated, unnatural effort instead of just being a normal part of your day. So it leaves us with one final haunting question. To what extent are your own health outcomes shaped by environments built by someone else? From the tragically depleted toxic shores of Nauru to the highly engineered, car-dependent, processed food realities of our modern cities, the link between global economics, infrastructure, and your health is undeniable. This mystery has been decoded by Hidden Reality. Subscribe to Hidden Reality for more deep dives into the unknown.